Upen Barve. Upen, please come to the stage. A big applause. And Upen will introduce all the participants, and let's listen to this interesting story that Upen has to tell us. Enjoy the show.
Thank you, Stefan. Amazing. Good afternoon, everybody. So excited. Great start today. And as Stefan promised, yeah, it's about a lot of things that AsiaBerlin promises and what we hope to do between both these amazing, phenomenal geographies. It's best explained by the Dutopia, as we call, right? The Dutopia. How did we do it? So one example we got for you is the project called Urban Mobility Berlin, India, UMBI in short. That's how we'll call it. So the UMBI project connects German and Indian actors in climate-friendly urban mobility space to jointly develop solutions for identified challenges to set impulses for improved mobility in India. The UMBI project was established in 2022 by the Berlin Senate Department for Economics, Energy and Public Enterprises in cooperation with GIZ, the Deutsche Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, supported by the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, through the Bund und Länder program, and which is implemented by NPACT as part of the startup platform, which is AsiaBerlin. This sounds complex already, right? So many players, so you know what we're hinting at. It's really multi-stakeholder engagement, cooperating in India with another bilateral program, which is promoting India's transformation to sustainable and climate-friendly e-mobility. It is implemented by GIZ and developed program under Green Urban Mobility Innovation Living Lab with another partner, Bosch Limited, and in collaboration with the DULT, Directorate of Urban Land Transport, Bangalore, India. So this sounds fun, right? Like I said, it's really amazing. And in order to explain, I have a great set of people here on the panel. Let me call upon Manjunath Sekhar. Manjunath from GIZ. Please welcome. Big applause. And to coordinate this, senior consultant, Siddharth Bhasin. Sid, come on. And the smiling face, Thomas, who's the co-founder and managing director of Swobbee, the startup from Berlin. Welcome, guys. All right, so living the AsiaBerlin story, living the dream. Lots to do here. So it sounds interesting, but let's first understand how did this project actually get commissioned, Sid? Can you tell how come this happened? And why did UMBI shape up in the first place?
Yeah, sure, no, absolutely. So as you mentioned, it was a multi-stakeholder project aimed at improving the mobility innovation ecosystem in India. And over the last years, we've seen Berlin rise as really the leader in mobility technology. And a lot of new startups over the years had emerged in Berlin. And they'd really shaped up how we now see the city. And right, like 4 years ago or 5 years ago, we didn't imagine e-scooters being on the roads, and we didn't imagine shared mobility as one of the ways to really travel and live in the city. And this is what we need in India right now, right? So I mean, we're seeing huge populations coming out of the middle classes. There's people with more movement. There's also people now coming out of different sectors of the society who want to go out, they want to work, but there's problems in the cities, and this is where we realized that we need to do something about it. And of course, innovation always is, like, let's say, one of the best ways to really move forward and solve solutions for. And that's when we came up with UMBI, the Urban Mobility Berlin India project, along with GIZ, along with DULT, along with the Berlin Senate and NPACT. And we thought this would be really a scenario where we can combine innovation from Berlin and take them to India, plus combine it with innovation from India, so that there could be sectoral exchange and learnings between the different innovation ecosystems, plus, of course, then develop solutions for Indian cities. So, I mean, I know it sounds complex, but we tried doing our best. So.
No, that's amazing. Thank you for putting the context. I think it's the best time. The timing couldn't have been better. But Thomas, from your perspective, young startup in Berlin, from Berlin, thinking big, and suddenly India happens to you. Was that a chance? How did it happen? Why did you think about?
Yeah, some people would call it suddenly and maybe randomly, but I would say it's rather fate. Because we've been asked by one of our investors to join the trip last year that we have done. It was kind of 1 month before, do you want to go? And we've been always thinking about India because it offers you tremendous possibilities to grow. It is a two-wheeler, three-wheeler country. And yeah, we didn't hesitate. We went on the trip, which paid off already. What can I say? And yeah, so the main reason was actually, it was always on the map. We have a solution. So maybe just to tell you what we are doing battery swapping charging infrastructure. We are the gas station for micromobility. So instead of charging your electrical device, your moped, you just go to a station, swap the battery, in less than 30 seconds you can move on your trip. So we actually had a match in terms of the demanded technology for India, but we've never been there. So I was invited by the investor, Sid joined, showed us pretty much a portfolio of companies that we are visiting, and I was like, whoa, these are the people I always wanted to speak to. So we went, and we had a delightful week in Bangalore and also in Hyderabad. So always for encouraging you people here to take part in such a trip, because you will not organize it that way like NPEC did it. Thank you.
Applause for that, by the way. We talk about a lot of delegation trips, and you see the impact here. Thank you. GIZ, Manju, we all know GIZ, and it's very, very active, very global organization. In the context of mobility, and in the context of, also the fact, does GIZ really work with startups, right? Could you share with us your thoughts on the current role of GIZ as well?
Sure, thanks, Upen. So the mobility sector for GIZ in India is rather new. I would say it started probably around 2018 or 19. So since then, GIZ has worked with a couple of partner states within India, with Government of India, supporting them in improving the framework conditions for mobility. Trying to introduce them to technology innovations, helping them in improving public transportation, first and last mile connectivity, transitioning to e-mobility, not just at the public transport level, that is electric buses, but also the first and last mile mobility, looking at three-wheelers and two-wheelers, which are typical choices in India for mobility options. So yeah, in that context, we've gone a long way in just a few years, and our partner states are picking up. I'm seeing a lot of awards, not just in India but across the world. In fact, one of our partner states, Kerala, just got an award at the UITP conference in Barcelona. I think it was last week. So yeah, we are supporting them, and that's GIZ's role in general across various sectors. As far as startups and innovations is concerned, in 21, GIZ and Bosch came together to start what is called the Green Urban Mobility Innovation Living Lab, which is focused only on looking at innovations in the mobility space, right? So whether the innovation is coming from an education institute or a startup or an individual, our interest is in looking at innovations that can be demonstrated, tested, piloted in a real-life situation, and that's why it's called the Living Lab, which is also pretty much picked up from the Europe experience. We demonstrate it, we show it to the city, and then support them in scaling it up. So that's our interest in with startups and innovations, and we hope to continue this much further. At this point, we're going to end in 24, but yeah, we're hopeful that we can continue further.
Fantastic. Thank you. And you talked about the, overall need for urban mobility increase as well. How did you, Thomas, how did you see what is the mobility market of India? Do you want to share with us a little perspective for the crowd? You've been there, you've seen it.
Maybe I'll ask the audience here, who of you is riding a two-wheeler?
Okay. That's
Okay. I would say that's very few. If I would ask this question in India or in Indonesia, I think 98% of people would have risen their hand that they actually own a two-wheeler. Why? How do we perceive the market? It's tremendous, it's huge, and it's going to be electrified. The numbers are really outnumbering the European markets. Thailand alone is selling more two-wheelers than whole Europe in 1 year. That's one of the major facts. We've been looking at the numbers of Indian companies. So in the first 3 months, Indian companies have brought more electric two-wheelers than whole Germany in ICE two-wheelers in a whole year. So this is crazy, this is happening, and the thing about going with our product into a, let's say, emerging economy means that, in my opinion, we create way more impact. Whereas people in India, in Indonesia, Thailand, wherever this type of mobility is preferred, they actually use it to generate income, to commute every day, to pay for food for the families, to provide education. And that's why when I'm coming to that country, disattaching the battery from the vehicle, making the mobility affordable, I'm having a way more bigger impact that I'm having here. Because we're also having business in Europe, and we've learned from that. I'm very glad that we are doing it here under harsh quality rules and so on. But here we are supporting micromobility, all the kick scooters, e-bikes out there. I think Lime is the only company that we are not having in our customer portfolio. So whenever you see a scooter, be sure in some cities it is charged by our solution already. The market is big and it needs solutions. And when you've ever been there, we're doing research from the desk. You will realize when you get out of the plane, get out in your car, in your Uber, and then realize how many vehicles are there outside. Jakarta, only 32 million motorcycles. 16 million official, 16 million non-official, people say. But it's not comparable to the Western world. And I think over the past years in Germany, we had a lack of visibility, especially for India. With the new government coming in, there's more focus also on India again, whereas before it was on China. And whenever I'm speaking to very well-set European companies that are building batteries, for instance, they have no clue how big the market in India is. They have to do a research. They pay McKinsey to get the numbers, but it's so obvious actually when you're there.
Absolutely, and growing with, it's also a drastic improvement in the quality of life, right? Having those two-wheelers, and it's a direct contribution to that as well. Now we ran a little mobility, the innovation sprint in Bangalore just a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yeah,
and you guys
right.
back. So yeah, that exactly 7th May to 13th May. I see that. 3 topics: handling freight with finesse, creating gender-inclusive system, and decarbonizing transport with hydrogen. So what were the key highlights and any actions, if you want to share with us, particularly from the innovation sprint you put together?
Yeah, sure. Maybe just a couple of lines on the concept of the Innovation Week. So the concept was really that we wanted to combine German startups and Indian startups, and we went to Bangalore. We were hosted by the Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore, which is a business school which has got all these access to industry mentors and coaches and professors from the business school who can really mentor the startups right there. They're quite world class. And that the whole sprint came together very well in terms of the startups from Berlin. They got really interested in the markets about India, and the startups from India, of course, were sharing their knowledge and expertise to these startups from Berlin as well. As you mentioned, we had these 3 challenges, which was provided to us by the government of the state, which is the state of Karnataka.
The DULT.
The DULT, and of course, then at the end of the sprint, we now have some startups that would be selected for pilot projects by the GIZ. And so again, that's how it all comes together, right? You have these many stakeholders, but if done right, there could be potential positive opportunities for the startups. And that's what the intention of the whole program was all along, right? To deliver innovation through the medium of startups to the problems that exist in India. And I would say that went sufficiently well as far as I think maybe Manjunath also has some words on it.
Yeah, exactly. I'll ask Manjunath to comment on that as a receiver and host as well during that time. But this is something interesting. So you basically put together the brains, not necessarily only the services and the products that people would bring in for India or other way around, but it was really gathering of the brains and then create those solutions together. So how did you feel? For you, how was the experience, Manju?
So it really finished off quite well. As the Living Lab, we are already engaging with a couple of those startups to see, or rather explore a collaboration where we can test their solutions on ground. So we are very happy with the outcome. Our government partner is very happy with the outcome. Not just that, and as Thomas was saying, right, get out of your offices and go to the ground. A lot of these startups got the opportunity to interact with a lot of users that our government partner was able to enable. So that experience has also improved, in my opinion, possibly the solution itself, right? The solution that these startups were offering. That has improved by these interactions. So yeah, all in all, we are quite happy with the outcome.
Fantastic. Now, it's not always very easy. All these big opportunities that you were mentioning, Thomas, they all come with significant share of challenges as well. Thomas, starting with you, I'm sure it was an absolute cakewalk, right? Easy to do.
So easy, always easy to leave Germany. No, actually, we are thinking we are leaving Germany and we will escape bureaucracy, but it's quite the opposite, actually. You will learn that also other countries that seem to us very easy, that we know from, I don't know, from holidays, prove to be more bureaucratic, right? And also a challenge, this might be a personal challenge every day for companies, for managers, is pretty much not to try to penetrate with your own way of German or Polish thinking like I have. I've learned that doing business is quite different. Like, whereas in Germany we try to stick to plans and it needs to go this way, but what I've learned from other partners doing business in India and from my perspective is like, sometimes you think you're off the path, left and right, but the path could be even a better way to reach your goal. So don't be too strict with yourself. The way of doing business is quite different. Relation building, in my opinion, is quite different. I had the opportunity to meet one of the top 40, I would say, founders and CEOs in India recently, 2 weeks ago here in Berlin. That's comparable to, I don't know, meeting the CEO of Daimler, right? But I will never get a chance to meet the CEO of Daimler like that. But when you know the right people, when you keep that relationship flourishing, you will get the chance at some point. And this is what I've learned. This is totally different. It takes also more time. And I'm a very impatient person, so I'm feeling like I'm on a torture bench for the last 12 months. But it's okay. It's about growing and taking on the challenges, embracing the bureaucracy, learn how we can speed up on those topics. But an opportunity I would never miss out.
Okay, thanks. So similar struggles, but at different scale, right?
Yes,
Than Germany.
very well said. Yeah, I think I talk to battery swapping companies. They have the same topics like we are having here, but on a bigger scale.
Okay, and yeah, I mean, different cultures, Sid. You're putting together, combining, as a bridge, right, from Germany into India. Very different ways of doing things, Thomas mentioned as well. From a cultural standpoint, what were the challenges for you that you saw you could overcome?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. There was many challenges, let's say cultural, organizational, right? Because we are cutting across organizations in Germany and India. We're cutting across cultures on both sides. Even the startups from Berlin compared to the startups in Bangalore, let's say they work on a very different mindset and a different model. So combining all of that together and delivering a project was, of course, something that took months, and we had a big support team that really helped it all out. And we, of course, as Thomas mentioned, we had to be patient, and that kind of pays off eventually. But while you're going through the process as a human being, you're always quite unsure about how things would unfold. But then, of course, it kind of the stakeholder alignment, let's say, was very important for us, because we had the governments here, we had the governments there, we had startups from here, startups from there, investors. And all of them had to come together to really cut through across the project. And it, of course, meant that there was a lot of communication ongoing for a constant period of time. And it basically still hasn't stopped, because it's still ongoing. Even after the project's over, now we still have communication ongoing. So I take that as a positive sign, as in people are interested in transfer of technology. People are interested to do business in India from here. Yeah, I guess eventually we come across a way as well, which probably increases let's say, the efficiency of stakeholder alignment. But that's something that I would say is ongoing. It's going on. Yeah.
Absolutely. While I was reading, how many organizations were involved already, then it was. I was like, okay, it sounds not so easy. So Manju, from your perspective, multi-stakeholders, you were supporting, you were both receiver as well as supporter of that. So what are any insights from your perspective?
Coming from India, we always thought that the bureaucratic process in India is very unique, right? It's a challenging environment, but I understand it's no different here, right? So I don't see why we don't see a lot more interest from innovators and startups from probably Berlin. So I think apart from just that, right, it is a time-taking process to convert an idea into a pilot even, much less the final project. So so I would say, just that the process that one has to go through, because mobility is not, it's not like a fintech solution, right? You can't just get into the market. You have to deal with the government. So that would be one big challenge. But as I understand, it's no different anywhere else. So it's just the same story in India.
No, absolutely, and I think when you come together on a certain purpose, right? I think when the purpose drives you, it looks different. It's not then more about stakeholders, but rather what are the shared values. And in the topic you're dealing with, is more about the cared value as well. So that's going to be interesting when we lose out all the boundaries and say, okay, let's work together on a certain purpose. And once we have that purpose, there is a way ahead. You look forward. So what would be, Thomas? Let's start with you. How does the way forward look? Next, I don't know, 6-10 months or more, both for Swobbee as a market in India, and something from a relationship standpoint with AsiaBerlin. What would be your further asks?
Yeah. So. First of all, we'll set up an entity. We started the process of setting up an entity in India to give it, let's say, more presence, being close to customers. We need also to listen. The good idea about AsiaBerlin actually says that it has a lot of, let's say, local players with hearts and brains in both countries, Germany and in the country of origins. So carefully listening helps. Sid once told me, you need to give it Indian roots. Yeah, we also understood we need to change the project for the Indian market. So the first step after this conversation was the decision, hey, have an Indian product manager. So we're hiring Indian employees to give it more Indian, style, more spice, right?
Spice.
And we will be operational more or less by the end of the year in India with first pilot projects. That's the reason. And we will keep AsiaBerlin and especially NPEC engaged, as it did not only happen during this India trip, but we've been also in Singapore, in Indonesia, and then there was just one sentence, hey, there's one Japanese company interested in your tech, shall we make a connection? The connection has been done, and actually I got the first order, yeah, which is nice, wow. And business happens. So AsiaBerlin, NPEC, keep on the good work. Sometimes you don't see the results immediately, but I think we might be one of the results that you can be proud of later on. Thank you.
Definitely, thank you. That's a big testimonial, the comms team. You should quote him. Manju, new programs coming up, more living labs, more topics. How is the way forward for GIZ now?
So we have a new sustainable urban mobility program that's getting started. On the living lab front, we are interested. That needs to be explored. But I'd like to leave about 5 numbers with you all to look at the way forward, right? So the first is by 2050, the urban population in India is going to cross 870 million, right? Just think about it. For context, it's a lot more than at least 150 million more than Europe's entire population today, right? That's just going to be our urban population. The second, we have of the 25 most polluted cities in the world as of 2020, India has 18 of them. It's a problem and an opportunity. The third, mobility and transportation sector contributes to about 40% of the overall pollution in our cities. And from the study that we did with Bosch, in some parts of Bangalore city alone, mobility or transportation contributes about 60%, right? So that's a huge problem as well as an opportunity. The fourth number, we have about 1.7 million deaths every year because of air pollution. And lastly, we have about 150,000 deaths due to accidents on roads. So road safety, air pollution, the size of our population. So these are really opportunity areas. GIZ is looking at this in the long run. We do want to promote a lot more public transportation, but I think the opportunity there, which really is a broken system in India today, is the disaggregated way in which the first and last mile connectivity works. So we are very hopeful that mobility as a service, as it operates in Europe, grows in a big way in India. And so that's something that we're looking forward to as far as an opportunity is concerned. This is from a people movement point of view. And obviously from goods, the logistics space, we are currently exploring greening of long-haul transportation, greening of trucks as an area of work for GIZ in India.
Super, thank you. No, that sounds great. Sid, would you do another one of those? Any way forward? Any new projects?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, I'm quite excited now. I think there needs to be a unified interface. I see a lot of German businesses having a very keen interest in India and vice versa. And there needs to be a development of, say, an innovation corridor which really helps in the German businesses moving in across India, and similarly because they cut across cultures, organizations, bureaucracy, and both sides really need to understand each other at that extent. So I would say I'm quite excited to do more projects like this, and hopefully we get more testimonials and more businesses that flow from one side to the other, and I think deliver innovation for the problems we see on both sides. So. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I can just say one more thing to that with the efforts like the German-Indian Innovation Corridor. There will be a few more very, very focused topics that we can accelerate between the two countries. To talk to Jan, talk to Martin, a couple of us here about that as well. I'm very excited. Thank you very much to the panelists. This is so that you know. We understand, because at AsiaBerlin, right in the beginning, you saw how, what all we do, and you saw how it is implemented, and this was a good occasion and good opportunity to bring forward a real case study. Please talk to any of us if you want to know more. Participate in the delegation trips and all the other activities. And yeah, let's keep this going. And Stefan, we hope next year we bring more of those success stories. Thank you very much for your attention this afternoon.
Thank you so much.